Welcome, everyone.
Okay.
Zephy Davy, and with me is Ariel Goodman, and she's going to talk about this incredible conjunction that we're having and the full moon, which the conjunction is Jupiter Uranus and the full moon in Scorpio, correct? Which we're going to give something in the end of that. So this is my YouTube channel, and we love to have Ariel again because she's one of our really, really incredible guests, and she just has so much knowledge on this after all these years that she's been an astrologer. So, and of course, she does the Venus star point, and she created an incredible book on the Venus star point that you guys probably can find through her on her webpage. And I don't know what else to say, Ariel. I love you. You got so much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's enough. I mean, my website's sophiavenus.com, Sophia with a PH, and you can find all my books and recordings and everything about Venus, the Venus star, etc. Today we'll talk a little bit about the Venus star just as it figures into the full moon, because it does figure into the full moon coming up.
You surprised me.
But
I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's a good surprise.
yeah, yeah. But also Venus fits in because this conjunction we're talking about, Jupiter and Uranus, is in Taurus, which is Venus's sign. So we have to remember Venus is, what we call in astrology the ruler of the sign of the energy. I don't like the term ruler. I prefer the term guardian. I think ruler is kind of an outdated, antiquated um, um, system. And if there's one thing Jupiter with Uranus wants to do is smash through and kind of, upend antiquated systems that no longer seem applicable to our modern world, to where we are now in our evolutionary process.
That's
So
amazing. You really surprised me, like I said a second ago, with throwing Venus in there. I'm excited. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear everything.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you're ready, we can start with the Jupiter Uranus and then how Venus goes into it. I will ask you a few questions, but as you
Okay,
going along, but let's hear what you have to say. I'm excited.
okay, sure. Well, there's a few things to know about this conjunction. One is that these two planets, Jupiter and Uranus, come together every 14 years, and they are doing so this week, actually. So this is a pretty powerful time. 14 years, as some of you might recognize, is one half of a Saturn cycle. It's also two signs of a Uranus transit, because Uranus stays in a sign for 7 years.
Mm.
So for 7 year, you know how people called, we have an old terminology, the 7 year itch.
Yep.
Well, a lot of people think, oh, it's the Saturn square. That's the 7 year itch, because it's also a Saturn square. But it's also Uranus changing signs. It's going into a new direction. So it's the urge to do something different, to move on. Um, but one half of a Saturn cycle. Okay, so that's 14 years ago. Think about your life in 2010. What was happening when the last time these two giants connected? What were you doing? I was looking back on my notes of the time, and I found that a lot of it had to do with people talking about the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. And was that going to mean the end of the world? Or what kind of big changes were we going to be going through as we anticipated, that coming up? Also, approaching 2012, we had the Venus transit, which happens in pairs. And so that was a huge breakthrough, bringing us into this kind of modern age that we're in right now. And the last one occurred right at the Alpha Omega point, 29 Pisces, 0 Aries. So in some ways, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction of next year is going to mirror that. It's going to, when Saturn comes to a point in the chart and activates anything, it brings it into reality. Uranus are like the vision, the dream, not the dream, but the vision, the idea, the all of that. But mainly, I would say it's a big one. Jupiter always makes things bigger because it's, think about the astronomy of Jupiter. It's the largest planet in the solar system, so it's big. And it has more moons than our sun has planets. Uranus is, think different, thinks out of the box, sideways. It rotates sideways. It's not like the rest of the crowd. It's different. It challenges and rebels from ordinary thinking and ordinary living and ordinary being. Does not like authority. So basically, but I think what they have in common is that they're both considered sky gods. They're very much up in the air. They're out there. Jupiter lives on Mount Olympus from Greek mythology. He carries the thunderbolt. Uranus was the sky god, creator of mating with Gaia, created everybody else. And actually, today, from Greek mythology, the modern Greek word for sky is Uranos, right? Uranos, is that how you pronounce it?
Uranus, yeah.
Uranos. And everybody has fun with Uranus because is it Uranus? Is it Uranus? Is it, like, how do you really say that? And so, that planet gets kicked around and joked around a lot about by people. But actually, Uranos, the sky god, and Zeus, of course, was Jupiter. Zeus lived on the mountain on top of Mount Olympus, and Uranus is the whole principle of the sky. So they're both kind of up in the air. Lightning and thunder, big, shaking of the earth, things like that. Transcendent in nature. Think about the transcendent quality of the times. Uh, really, all of the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, those which are beyond Saturn, are pretty autonomous in terms of their principles. They do not report to, even though Zeus was the ruler of the gods and the gods were the kind of rulers of humanity, they don't report to anybody. They've got their own area of autonomy. They do their own thing. So it's sort of like we can't control them.
Also,
so yeah, out of our control, things out of our control.
Yeah, but also I wanted to point to two things. Uranus and Jupiter. It's how you say Jupiter. It's Zeus' grandfather. Uranus is Zeus' grandfather because
right,
right, Saturn, correct? And his father. His father was Saturn, and one of the kids of the Titans. It was Uranus' son. It was Saturn. And also this week we having this conjunction in Greece. We're going to have thunderstorms. So I was like,
oh, right.
That's very interesting.
Right on time.
Right
I
on
know.
time. Exactly.
The forecast for this weekend is, rain and thunder and lightning probably. We'll see how that happens. But it can be a destructive force too. It can be too much.
Yeah.
Certainly because it's in Taurus, it can deal with the earth shaking up a little bit, the ground being unstable under our feet, and things like that. But I also wanted to say about Uranus, it's connected with the Hindu god Varuna.
Exactly.
And you would probably know more about that.
Yeah, but it's okay. Go ahead. I love to hear your side. I like to hear your side.
Yeah, but I don't know as much about Varuna, but Uranus I do know about because Uranus was considered, you know, really according to the Greek story of creation, Gaia came first. Gaia is Mother Earth,
Yeah.
and she came first, but the story goes that she grew lonely for a mate. And so she created or willed Uranus, and of course Uranus was the sky, and together they mated and they had many many offspring. But Uranus felt threatened by the offspring, and so what you're saying, what you said before, is really true. Eventually, one of the sons of that union, Saturn or Kronos, had to stop Uranus from creating all the children because he was jealous of them and he was stuffing them in the earth. So, and he was, I don't know about torture, but he was definitely stuffing them, away, keeping them from. He was afraid they were going to take over and become the next ruler, and he didn't want to give up power. And so Saturn put an end to it. And we know the story, of how he put an end to it. It was a pretty bloody end. Basically, he castrated him, and the genitals fell into the ocean. And then Saturn or Cronus became the next ruler, the next generation ruler. But Saturn did the same thing as his father did. He also became jealous of all his offspring and children and tried to swallow them, keep them from expressing themselves. And a lot of times when this Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter combination appears together in people's charts, you will find instances where the father, sometimes it's the mother, but often it is the father, did try to inhibit their growth or their creativity or their own direction, especially of a strong Uranus Saturn together. There is often this conflict between going the traditional way and moving into something new in terms of the, where Uranus, where it's going next. But I want to call attention to the work of Richard Tarnas, an astrologer that I really admire a lot. He wrote a book called Prometheus. Um, Uranus is sort of the carrier of the Promethean energy. So the astrological Uranus is really more like Prometheus in terms of bringing fire to mankind, fire representing vision and creativity and all of that. So it's a big, it's really a big creative cycle. It's often when they come together, there's an up leveling, an upgrading of things that are going on Earth. And the body may resist that. I mean, we're in an Earth sign now. They're in Taurus, and um, the most important thing I think for us individually, I mean, certainly it's affecting the world. We could talk about that, but in terms of our personal lives, when this kind of conjunction comes together, these two bodies come together, it's a force field, and it's in the sign of Taurus, which is considered the body. It represents Gaia, which is Mother Earth, but by extension, our bodies are a representation of Mother Earth. So, what is this new thing that's coming into our lives or wants to come into our lives? And how is the body accepting it, or is the body resisting it? Because Taurus, being a fixed earth sign, can often be resistant of change. They're not exactly the first one to get up and go after, the next new thing. They're sort of like, why do I need that? I'm comfortable where I am. So there's these surges electrical. I mean, think of Uranus as electricity and Jupiter as the thunder god. There's these electrical surges that are moving through us. They're affecting the earth and the earth grid, but they're also affecting our own bodies. So it's really important to think about the integration right now. How do we align body and mind? Are we ready for the next big thing? Are we ready? Whatever that next big thing is in our life, are we ready for it? Generally, it's a pretty good thing when they come together. I would say yes. If you're going with the flow and moving in an evolutionary way and ready, to grow with it and flow with it, it's going to hit you fine. But if you're really resistant and fearful about, what's happening and what might happen, you're probably going to find some painful uh, reactions to it. And the other thing that I will say is, because it's such a worldly thing, is that people are very disturbed, as one would expect, by the events in the world right now. Certainly, the force is disturbed. There's a disturbance in the force, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, when there's a war going on. And there's a couple of big wars going on and a lot of minor wars in different places. And so don't think we're not all connected, and don't think we don't all feel this. And I bring up Obi-Wan Kenobi because recently I was at an astrological seminar where Deborah Holding was there, and she presented the chart of Sir Alec Guinness, who actually played Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. And he has Uranus right on the ascendant when he at his birth. So I thought, oh, we all were commenting on, whoa, he became Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
too, in the Vedic.
Anyway,
in the Vedic.
yeah. So
I have Uranus on my on my ascendant, so
yes,
and I'm sure
exactly.
it's the same thing.
So I know you follow the Vedic. So this would be in Aries. This conjunction would be in Aries rather than Taurus. So that might have a different effect, but still it's going to affect our nervous systems because that's just the nature of the two.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
And I just being an Aquarius, with Pluto there, things are very intense. I speak out of experience for the past couple months, and my months ahead they're going to be very intense. I don't know if it's a change or a choice, but I think for all of us, I feel that we need to stay grounded no matter what the chaos is out there, whatever is going on. So,
definitely.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Able to handle all these
and that's where nature comes in. One of the books I wrote quite a while ago, back in the early 90s, is called Mythic Astrology. And when I was talking about, I actually have a chapter on Gaia in there. I included it with the planets because it is our Earth. And Gaia is usually a point opposite from the sun in your chart. If you look at where the sun is, you're going to find Gaia at the exact opposite point. And it is pretty much with what keeps you grounded, or how, all of that. But one of the things that we talked about in the chapter on Gaia and Uranus and the fact that they were mates is that as we come more into the Aquarian age, which if we're not there physically yet, some of us are certainly there mentally, emotionally, psychically, we're like feeling it. And that the marriage, when things start going off planet in a big way, like, space, Aquarius, Uranus, up in the air, and all this artificial intelligence is coming in over the next 20 years with Pluto and Aquarius as well. That what is our saving grace going to be? It's going to be the earth itself. Being in our gardens, being in nature, being around clean rivers and flowing streams and forests and the beauty of the earth. And it's what's going to keep us really together. So I'm thinking that more and more as time goes on, it's really even more important for those of us who do appreciate the earth to get out there, to be in it even more so, because a lot of us, and I'm guilty of this too, and I sometimes don't like it, but can't always control it. I feel like I'm stuck either at my computer or with my phone, mobile devices, and the energy that comes through those too many hours of the day.
Yeah.
And it's like it's fatiguing us all. It's just like, it's draining us all. So, for the time that we spend inside focused on that, we also need to counterbalance it by, being with trees and tuning into them the same way we tune into our phones.
Yeah, and we're lucky, you live by the water, I live in an island, so we're lucky that way. At least
Right.
it's near us, all this, and the trees
Yeah.
stuff, because we need it. I definitely believe that we need it. And I wanted to, when I moved, I wanted to be near the sea because it makes it very important for me, like you are living. So
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
I'm near the sea too. In fact, this morning I went out for a nice walk all along the shore. It was a little bit breezy, but it was like fine. It was sunny. The waves were kind of whipping up, and as I looked out there, I felt like, yeah, the waves Uranus and Jupiter are coming together. They're stirring things up already. It's only a few days away from exact. But hey, the play when you don't think it's just going to be on that day and then it's going to be over. The effects of this last a very long time. In fact, the degree it's happening at, which is 21 in Taurus, between 21 and 22 Taurus in the tropical system, is going to be active and sensitive for the next 14 years.
Wow.
So you want to look, I mean, until the next conjunction, really. And at the 7-year point, of course, the halfway point. But any planet, anything that goes over that point, whether it's a faster moving planet or the moon every month or or eclipse patterns or whatever, it is a sensitive degree. So, and the Sabian symbol for that degree is a white dove flying over troubled waters.
I was going to ask you about that. I was just going to ask you about the Sibian symbol. Wow. That's nice.
It really fits with kind of the times right now, don't you think?
Yeah, of peace. That's what we need.
Yeah, the peace dove.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the peace dove, and we need that. We have a lot of troubled waters right now, as I mentioned earlier, all these wars going on. So maybe because Uranus is either break down, break up, or break through.
Yeah.
And it can be all of the above, even at the same time. Things might break down, you might break up with somebody, but in the end result is a breakthrough. You're going into a new world now, you're entering a new place. So I'm hopeful that we will have a breakthrough. And I do believe that because Venus is the guardian of Taurus, that this conjunction in Venus's sign, that Venus will have some say here. Venus will have some clout. She's in Aries right now for the conjunction, but soon, very soon, she'll be in Taurus.
And her
And she will
father,
come along and activate that point.
yeah, and her father is Uranus. So that, and her brother is Zeus. So that will be a great combination for the feminine to really activate, these two
Yeah,
energies. Wow. I got
right.
chills as we were talking about it. I think it's going to get activated. we need,
Yeah,
we need,
yeah.
we need it. We need this new
Yeah,
motivation in the new world to go like that. Absolutely.
right. And if you think about also the whole idea of Venus being a born of the sea, born of the waves, of the, the castration of Uranus. Okay, it put an end to what he was doing, but then the genitals of Uranus kind of swirling around in the ocean, mixing with the sea foam and Neptune's, Poseidon's realm, created the birth of Venus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, you can say that from, the severing, let's say, or the ending of one phase or one era in your life comes something new. And I think the really important point to remember right now is, what are you creating? Because this is really a creation aspect. You're giving birth. We're all giving birth to something new.
Yeah.
And so the creation process is really key right now. I would think about that. I would spend some time thinking about that. Now you might put it in your houses of your wheel, of your horoscope. What are you giving birth to? What's this new cycle mean for you? I look back on where I was 14 years ago and what that cycle created for me. And I was 2010, I was just putting the finishing touches on the Venus book. And it had taken almost 7 years until its publication in 2011. So within 1 year of that conjunction, I had published the book. And so it was incubating for a long time. And then I gave birth to that. So I was giving birth to that at that time. Speaking of Venus, being a product of, that. But at the birth of the book, at the publication of the book, Jupiter and Uranus were still close together. They were still close together in Aries. And so it was bringing a new idea into astrology as well. But so, I'm looking now. Okay, so this next aspect is in Taurus. Where is Taurus in your chart? What house does it fall in? Tropical Taurus. What's it doing to other planets? You know, things like that. But, I'm thinking also of just the surges we're feeling right now. Some people are feeling Saturn's been in Pisces and Neptune's there. It's catching up to Neptune. Mars is there right now. There's a lot of Piscean energy where people feel a little bit lost at sea,
Yeah.
fogged
Yeah.
over what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I can't see clearly. I don't have any inspiration right now. What is it all about? And what I would say to that is, you know, uh, this can be an antidote to that. This can help you push through and, see things a little bit more clearly now. Like that song, I Can See Clearly Now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And, people always ask about astrology, whenever you say something like Jupiter and Uranus, or whatever you say, people who aren't in it as much will always say, is that good or bad?
Exactly.
So, is it good or bad? That's the big question in astrology. The I don't believe, I don't believe we can assign, a designation, put a designation like that on it. Is it good or bad? It has the possibility of being all things, you
Exactly.
know.
And,
Yeah.
like people would think breakup or losing someone or all that is bad. Or, some other people might think it's okay. It's time for me to break up and it's time for me to, the loss. It's fine. So I think it depends how the people take the way their mind is, the way they will accept what the energy is there for them. But I think the breakthrough
Right.
is the most amazing thing because all planets helps us when it's the right timing in our chart to break through, to create something, and then to break through our old patterns. And I think this is very strongly coming on, like breakthrough
Right.
all patterns. I think it's all over the world. It's happening.
Yeah,
That's my
exactly. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody this morning who said her husband was let go of a long-time job and they had moved to another country just for him to be in this job, and the whole family moved there, and now he's been let go. And she's seeing it as a huge crisis. And of course, there's a lot of Taurus in this family. So I'm thinking of this conjunction, and it's like what came to mind was, hey, when one door closes, another one opens. So maybe this letting go, it feels like shock waves to your system right now. And it feels like something, the worst thing that could possibly happen. But you have to remember the law of the universe, which is everything in its right place at the right time. Um, everything is in order, everything is in cosmic order, and it's all happening for a reason. And if we can really get out of ourselves, of our fearful thinking, of our negative thinking, and move into that place of just trusting that this is going to take us to the next level, that's good. I was excited when I realized, looking back 14 years ago, that I was just giving birth to that book, because I thought, oh, what am I giving birth to now? What's this cycle going to be?
Yeah, I gave back birth to my tantric path. Like I went and really deep into it, starting those times, like 2010 and 12. That was like I went very deep in it so now I feel more comfortable expressing it and talking about it. And
Yeah.
so I don't know what
Yeah. So we both started a new path at that time, a very new path. I began doing all the Venus Star teachings since then, and it's really taken off. And the path that you started at that time has really taken off as well. It's your life's work now.
It is. And it's the goddess. So Venus is, it's a form of goddess. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So let's see, what else did I want to cover? That some people are born with varying degrees of a Jupiter Uranus aspect in their chart. It may not be the conjunction, it might be the square, the opposition, the sextile, the trine, whatever. But people born with any kind of interaction between Jupiter and Uranus are much more tuned in to the stars, because again, we're up in the sky. These are two sky god principles, to sci-fi,
Yeah.
to now we could say AI, to ETs, to anything out of this world, technology, aviation, space travel, etc. The Star Trek, the Star Wars. I remember when I was young, very young, like I don't know, it's still in elementary school. I used to go down to the corner market and read these comic books. I didn't buy them all, but I would read them while I was there. And because I only had enough, to buy one, and I wanted to read a whole bunch of them. So it was like, okay. And what I was reading, I found myself reading more and more, was Superman. And those are the ones I'd eventually read, but then I would eventually buy them and take them home. And I remember one day my mother saying something like, "Why do you have all these Superman comic books?" Like she was thinking I should be playing with or doing things that were more female, things for girls, whatever. Well, I have a Jupiter Uranus conjunction, not conjunction, aspect in my chart. So I already at a young age, I'm like, I was just fascinated by this story that, he was from another planet and he came crashing to Earth. And these foster parents picked him up. They found him in their cornfield in Kansas, and they picked him up and took him home and disguised him as an earthling, and said he's our adopted son, and raised him. But they were the only one who knew that he was really Superman,
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like I lived through that fantasy for a long time thinking, oh, because I was born in the Midwest. Okay, maybe I have another planet somewhere. I landed here and these are just my foster parents, and one of these days I'm going to go back to my home planet.
Well, there's a lot of people feel like that out there. A lot of us, that we're just came in like out of nowhere and to the specific families, and we don't fit with them because we don't fit of their way they are. So where do we come from? Why do we came into these families? I feel like
Yeah,
I'm the only child, but I feel like, I don't know. I was like, do I belong here? I'm not
yeah, right.
not a typical person.
Yeah,
My family is
no.
to my family.
Yeah, and just as I can see you walking through the traditional Greek village, where the women are all wearing black, and here you come in a swirl of color and life. And it's like they must look at you like, is she from outer space?
They do, still do. I was like that since I was really young, color and extreme and
Yeah, exactly.
and like I wore high heels and penny hose because we wear a uniform in high school, correct? So I will wear
Yeah,
uniform, the typical uniform, but it would be above the knee, normally supposed to be underneath the knee in Greece. And then I wear stockings underneath with socks up to the knees and then platforms. And I would go to school and I was like probably
yeah,
the
I
first.
know.
So, I was in seventh grade and eighth grade. So people were like, who is this? It's always been like that.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
Uranus in the first
Yeah,
house, I'm like expressive and,
yeah.
it doesn't
An
bother.
Aquarian plus Uranus in your first house. So that's a double
Yeah,
kind of whammy.
yeah. So I feel
Yeah,
like a double whammy at times. But it's life
yeah.
and we have fun with it and accepting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you found a way. I mean, a lot of children that are born like that, I've done charts for many of them, feel like they just don't belong anywhere. But you found your tribe, you found your place. I did too amongst astrologers. I mean, until I really, first of all, astrology excited me as a language and as a concept to study and to learn about myself. But then when I realized, oh, these astrologers gather at conferences all over the globe and they talk about astrology, I thought, okay, there's my tribe, because otherwise I didn't fit into the other groups. They were talking about things that I just didn't relate to. They were nice people, but it was sort of like, I don't get it. I'm not, yeah,
It's like, everybody around in Greece wants to be a lawyer or a doctor or this like that.
exactly.
I'm never going to be a doctor because I don't like blood, but now I'm a healer. You know what I mean? So we can find our
Yeah,
ways. We can find our ways and really stay grounded and really connect to what we want. And I think that's the most important thing, to discover what it feels good for us. And then everything else
yeah.
into place. Our tribe will show up. So
Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah. And the other thing is that if you do feel, I mean, alienation is definitely a big issue with Uranus. If you do have Uranus in a position of uh, strength or power in your chart, I would say look to Jupiter.
mhm.
Look to see where Jupiter is and how you can integrate the two, how you can bring the two together. You can even look at the midpoint between them to see, where does this all come together? How can I cash in on this? Because, you can either be Uranus, the freak show with Uranus in the first house where you're so alienated from everybody, or you can be Alec Guinness, who had a marvelous career and became Sir Alec Guinness and became Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. So, it's like, and I think I remember, fighting the rebel forces. It was interesting up in the sky there, training young Luke Skywalker how to use the light laser. And it was very important, you know, how to use it, how to control your energy, how to do battle. You don't just strike out of anger, but you're very careful with how you, and I think that's also something we could take for now, you know, how to point our life, how to direct our light, how to direct our energy, how to protect ourselves, etc. But there's you know, it's like once you realize that, and I tell people this a lot with Uranus in that position or in a strong position, it's like, okay, so you're different, but use that to your advantage. You know, you can become the leader or the one who inspires others rather than the one who doesn't fit in with the others, you know.
So what do you think now with the moon coming on, the full moon in Scorpio? What do you think that combination is about? Because I find it very fascinating, but I want to hear you. You know, we talk.
Okay, and I want to hear what you think too, but okay, so it's early degrees of Scorpio. For one thing, the full moon in Scorpio is always said to be the Buddha moon.
Mhm.
It's the full moon of the Buddha, the enlightenment principle. From what I've read, it's the birth of Buddha occurred at the full moon in Scorpio, and his enlightenment occurred at the full moon in Scorpio. And what is one of the basic principles of Buddhist philosophy? It's about attachment. And the sun's going to be in Taurus, the moon's going to be in Scorpio. So it's a lot about attachment and what we are attached to on the physical world, what we are attached to emotionally, and that you know, the idea in Buddhism if that life, you know, that we suffer greatly when we are attached to things because everything changes, nothing stays the same. Things come, things go. You know, I watched the Buddhist monks creating the sand mandalas every year for years when I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You were in Sedona,
Yeah,
so there were a lot of similar things going on there with the Buddhist community. But these monks come and create these fabulous sand mandalas, and it takes a week or more, maybe
yeah.
sometimes 2 weeks, to very precise mandalas with all these little different colored beads of sand, and they're beautiful. And then they just, when it's all finished, they just break it all down. They just, you know, take all the sand and stir it up and you go, oh my gosh, you just destroyed something beautiful. But it's a lesson for us in saying, you know, everything, nothing lasts, nothing in the material world lasts. So partly the Scorpio moon is about that. It's about attachment. It's about but this one is pretty important because it's square Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius is in early degrees of Aquarius. The sun will be in early degrees of Taurus and the moon in early Scorpio. So there's a lot to do. It has a lot to do with letting go anyway, even if it weren't the Buddha moon. Pluto is about saying goodbye, moving on, you know, things pass on. You know, things are changing, cycles are changing. So, but I do feel hopeful from this, and Taurus is connected to both. I do feel some hope from this white dove flying over troubled waters that we, on the Jupiter Uranus or maybe days following it, that we can have a breakthrough in the world on some positive things going on and some resolution to some of the conflict that's happening, and at least for food getting to the people that need food and medical attention right now, and to stop children from dying and you know things like that in mass. um, you know, these are very basic simple principles: food, medicine, shelter. Those all have to do with Taurus. And, you know, it's horrific to witness so many people in the world not having that. And it's just, it does affect us all. So, anyway, those are my initial thoughts about the full moon in Scorpio. And
Well, for me, I feel that from the form of the Western, tropical astrology, I feel that there's going to be a Kundalini awakening, because in Scorpio, in the Native Americans, they say you either going to just be like a Scorpio or you're going to fly like an eagle. So, I also feel that. So are you attached to the earthly, how do you say, everyday stuff like a car and a house and a phone, and when you think it makes you happy, or are you actually going to go inside and reach the highest spiritual self of yours? Like, are you going to fly like an eagle, like you're going to fly to the sky, like to Uranus, which is very much connected to that? Are you going to be the spiritual soul that it needs to really awaken and get to you really who you truly are, instead of the material stuff that has been affecting you for such a long time? So for me,
yeah,
all this combination is going to be definitely like a Kundalini awakening. And we're going to see that a lot. And I kind of tell people, slow down, practice your meditation, focus on yourself, detach from things that don't serve you, like you said. And also, the Buddhist monks, because we had the creek there in Sedona, they used to take that incredible sand as they destroyed it, and they threw it into the water, which is, again, connected to Uranus about, him being totally destroyed and everything went into the sea. So I feel that this is what's going to happen in the next 15 years. That's what I feel we're going to see with a full moon.
Yeah.
Shining there. It's such a close, proximity.
Yeah. Same in Santa Fe. They took it to the river and took the sand, and they would give us little vials of sand to take back home with us that we could put on our altars. But yeah, yeah, the detachment principle. I've always thought of Taurus as the idea of first of all, in astrology, Taurus and Venus and the second house, which are all related, have to do with what we call values and self-worth. And I think a lot of times, I've said this over and over again, that I think sometimes people confuse self-worth with net worth,
Yeah.
and that they think the more things that they have around them and the more in their bank account, the more that they've accumulated on the physical world gives them more self-worth. But actually, it doesn't. It's a poor substitute, because if you've been spending your whole life developing that, accruing, that, I mean, it's fine to work to accrue enough, to take care of yourself and your family, and certainly that. But beyond, all the billionaires that are being created, millionaires and billionaires, over, that are never going to have the need for all that, that are hoarding it, that you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough unless I have more and more and more. Um, you're never going to find the true inside. So when you say Kundalini awakening, it resonates, because I feel like it is a chance to really up level, move ourselves into a different framework. And that is very much connected with the Jupiter Uranus that we've been talking about, because it is an up leveling, it is an upgrading, it is the sky gods coming to Earth in an Earth sign
Yeah.
saying, okay, time to, it's like the eagle landing in your front yard and saying, come on, get on my back, fly with me, we're going.
Exactly. Exactly. And the Native Americans used to do a trick to bring an eagle down, is by taking a rock and put it in their mouth and touch their tongue with behind their teeth. And then actually an eagle will come down. I seen that in Sedona, not in Sedona, but in Monument Valley. I seen that. So it's kind of like, it needs something solid for the ego to come down. So solid is our body, you know what I'm saying? And then it can uplift us at the same time. So
Right,
we have
right.
a lot to see in the next 14 years with all these combinations that are going on. We have a lot to see.
Will we even recognize the world 14 years from now? Because with Pluto barreling through Aquarius now, and this, this AI. And, I was thinking about it. One of the comments that was made about back when Pluto first went into Aquarius last year for the first time was that, Frankenstein was written, the novel Frankenstein was published at the last pass of Pluto in Aquarius.
Oh.
And it was about creating, it was really artificial intelligence, basically back then at that time. And it's like, what are we giving birth to? Are we giving birth to something new and beautiful? Are we giving birth to a monster that's going to eventually, take over? I started thinking about, pretty soon, it's going to get, you're going to hear more and more about how AI and humans are integrating with one another, how they are moving into how they are coexisting, how they are going to coexist. And I use scenarios of a lot of laws being created about what AI can and can't do, and even AI more or less feeling like needing to be represented in court, like we have rights too.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that all pans out.
Yeah. And I feel that it's going to be a big shift because I have Pluto in Aquarius right now as well. So, we'll see, we'll see what happens. And
Yeah.
I think I'm excited. I mean,
Right.
I feel very lucky living right now. Actually, I feel very lucky. And I kind of say that to people, and the people are like, why? And I'm like, look at what's happening. We're part of a big shift in the world. And, all of us that
Yeah.
still around, we're going to be really doing a lot of, so the next 14 years, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. We definitely have to have gratitude for where we are, what we have now.
Exactly.
And yeah, and just go with the flow, as they say, because this Jupiter Uranus is like next level, next step in our collective evolution, and also next step in our personal evolution.
Yep. And I like what you said. The sky gods are coming to this earth. How amazing and powerful that can be. Like we're meeting, humanity and God is meeting. I just find that fascinating for me. I love it, actually.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Us being out of our
Yeah.
bodies, and
So that's a good visual to keep in mind while,
yeah.
as we're meditating on things. This morning when I had my walk at the sea, I was looking at all the beautiful flowers, spring is happening and blooming, the bright yellow flowers blooming against the sea, the blue of the water and the shore and the waves coming in, and the sky was lovely. And I just thought, we really, really have to appreciate the beauty of the earth and be grateful for it. So I will leave on that note with, and appreciate your body and appreciate the earth body and your connection to it
That's very good.
as you fly to new dimensions in your life.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. This was an amazing conversation and amazing sharing and knowledge. And it's so lovely to always have you here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zephy. I love being with you. And, your energy actually always makes me feel really good. So, again, thank you for all that you do for everybody in helping them
Uplift.
raise it up.
Yeah, we are. We're going to raise it up. Yes.
Raise it up.
Let's raise it up. I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.